This evening's panel consists of the following media organizations: KCRT Radio, Eli DeBono; World Journal, Todd Bergowski; The Chronicle News, Kirk Loudon. Thank you, gentlemen, for serving as our panel members. Video recording will be Tom Murphy. Also video recording will be Garrett Watson and Rich Hoffman. And the timekeeper is Sherry Files, who also happens to be the Chamber Ambassador President. So with all of those introductions, I would now like to introduce to you this evening's moderator, Andrew Hoffman. He is from Edward Jones, and he is currently the Rotary President and an Ambassador for the Chamber of Commerce. Welcome, Andrew.
Well, as you can see, precautions are definitely being taken. I want to thank everyone who's joining us this evening. First, we'd like everybody to know every candidate had the opportunity and was given the opportunity to participate in this event. Those who are not present chose not to attend this event. This event will be live via the Chamber's Facebook Live as well as YouTube Live on Trinidad Times TV 71. Also, we're going to be having this Comcast Channel 171 broadcast Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays, 5 p.m. every evening until the election. We'll be taking questions during the live stream. Please send in your questions for the candidates. We would like to remind everyone that this is not a debate. This is an informational forum for the public. So please participate. Send in your questions. This is your opportunity to get them answered. The event will follow the following format. Each group sharing on ballot issues will be given 3 minutes to share their issue. When their time is up, the timekeeper will ring the bell. That'll be Sherry. We'll then move on to the next group. The audience, via live as well as people who are here, they will be given the opportunity to participate by sending in your questions for the candidates via Facebook and YouTube. The questions will then be delivered to the panel. Keep your questions respectful and to the point. Each candidate running will be given 3 minutes for an opening statement. Then the candidates will answer questions from the panel and the audience members. Once that's completed, each candidate will be given 3 minutes for closing statements. The timekeeper will give every candidate notice when their time is up. Please finish your sentence you're currently speaking through and allow us time to move on to respect all in attendance. Please be courteous and respectful while people are speaking. I do want to make it clear, this is not a debate. Please respect each other's time. Let people talk. Let them finish what they are saying. Everyone in attendance will be wearing a mask, as Sherry said, social distancing. Those individuals speaking may remove their mask to speak. We would like to give a special thanks to SoCo Quick Clean, who will be handling all of our cleaning and sanitization needs in order to ensure our safety in this event. As you saw, just as Sherry left the mic, they were right up here immediately. Finally, no food or drink in the auditorium. So first, I'd like to go ahead and introduce well, that didn't last long. Test. You there? Okay. So first, I'd like to go ahead and introduce Jody Amato, who will be speaking on Referendum 1A. Jody, if you'd like to go ahead and come up.
Along with Phil Dorian.
Yep, Phil will have his 3 minutes afterwards as well.
Okay, we're going to do it
Together? That's fine
Do we
then.
need to say?
Phil, if you guys are doing it together, feel free to come up.
Yeah. We want those 3 minutes per item. Do we need to sit at the table or?
It's going to be at the table. And if you guys would like to take separate tables?
Yes.
Appreciate it.
Phil, you get to take that table. Good evening, and thank you. I am Jody Amato, and I am here today as a concerned citizen of Los Animas County. We are asking in this election that our voters please vote for Referendum 1A. Referendum 1A will not raise taxes in any way and will instead authorize the utilization of tax money that the county has already collected. In 2017, the voters of Los Animas County approved a county sales tax. The estimated sales tax to be collected on that ballot question was underestimated, and the sales tax generated an excess of funds. Los Animas County chose not to spend those excess funds without voter approval. On November 3rd, on this ballot, referendum ballot measure 1A is asking for voter approval to be able to utilize the excess funds that was generated from our sales tax. Once again, it was a voter-approved sales tax in 2017. We collected more than what was on the ballot question. Passing 1A will benefit citizens of the county, and the county will distribute part of the excess revenue through grants to aid businesses and organizations throughout Los Animas County. The following is a breakdown of how the money will be used. To the community, $811,000 to nonprofit organizations within our community and our county through a grant program. Grants for COVID-19 interrupted businesses. The Senior and Veterans Homestead Exemption Act that is funded by the state of Colorado is possibly not going to be funded next year. With that excess generated revenue, the commissioners and the county would like to be able to implement that senior homestead exemption should the state not backfill, so we can still give that benefit to our local seniors and veterans here in our county. We are asking to please vote yes on referendum 1A. Allow Los Animas County to be more self-sufficient and less dependent on the state of Colorado. I will pass it off to Mr. Dorenkamp.
Good evening, my name is Phil Dorenkamp, and I am here on behalf of Vote Yes on Referendum 1A, Los Animas County Cares, Los Animas County Sheriff's Committee. And I'll pick up from where Ms. Amato left off. We'd also like to set aside $225,000 of those excess monies for All Hazards Emergency Fund. This fund will help us to support our local firefighters on wildland fires, pandemic responses, floods, etc. And as an example, we recently helped support the firefighters in the East Fork fire, and the helicopter that was doing water drops on the first day, which the county didn't have to pay for, cost $500,000 an hour. Those numbers jumped out at me whenever I heard about that, and there was actually a request to do more of those airdrops with that same type of helicopter, and of course we told them no, we can't afford that. We being the county, I should say. And also we hired a dozer for 36 hours worth of work up there because of our annual operating plan. We were required to, Los Animas County is required to have 2 dozers, and one of them broke down, as typically happens, so we hired a contractor that was on site, and in 36 hours we ran up a $9,600 bill. Backfill the Department of Human Services in the tune of $80,000, not only from the increase in COVID clientele, but also the state has stopped funding or reduced their funding on many of the programs at DHS. So $80,000 to backfill DHS shortages. $150,000 go to the Sheriff's Department HVAC repair. Currently the jail needs some repairs done on the HVAC system. $10,000 for appliance repair, and this is all in the Sheriff's Department. We're going to set aside $10,000 each year so that the sheriff can replace appliances on a 5-year rotation. If we don't, then as an example, when his dishwasher breaks down, we end up having to use disposable type utensils and also plates, which drives up the cost to the taxpayers. $26,000 to live up to the mandates of Senate Bill 20-217. That's the bill that was recently passed. It requires deputies to wear the body cameras and also to store that video to the cloud. And I got a sign that I've got 1 minute left, so I'll run through these quickly. $30,000 for remodeling of the extension office. And I'll back up to the courthouse, $120,000 for a ground replacement of the walls that are near our sidewalks that are all deteriorating and falling apart. $500,000 for HVAC Phase 3 courthouse improvements. $450,000 for digitizing the assessors and the Board of County Commissioners documents. This will allow us to, as one of our committee members stated, store those records off-site, so if originals are damaged in some fashion, we have off-site storage of copies. And $450,000 to do repairs out of the coroner's office, and $300,000 to help increase our contingency fund at the courthouse, so if we run into unexpected expenses, we have monies to pay for those unexpected expenses. With that, I close. Thank you.
Thank you. Once again, we would like to ask voters to please vote yes on referendum 1A. This is not a new tax. It is sales tax that has already been collected by folks that are coming to our community, traveling out of state. It's monies that we need to put back into our community. Please allow Los Animas County to be more self-sufficient and less reliant on the state. Thank you.
Thank you both.
Questions? No?
No questions on this?
No.
sir.
Thank you.
Someone stating to ask, could you elaborate on how the funds were accidentally collected and how the money would be returned to taxpayers if it doesn't pass?
I'm sorry?
Just 1 second.
Accidentally.
We'll go ahead and do one question just for the fact that time was not allotted for questions on the ballot issues. And don't know that it would exactly be fair that if we started on this end and not others, so we'll allow one question per.
As far outside.
Okay, yeah.
Because again, can you elaborate on how the funds were accidentally collected and how money would be returned to taxpayers if it does not pass?
The funds weren't accidentally collected. When the ballot measure was drafted in 2017, the county anticipated that they would receive $1.16 million, I believe is what it is, through a 1% sales tax. We actually collected more than that on that 1% sales tax. So all those excess monies have been set in a deferred account, and that's what we're wanting to spend. And the second part of your question was, if it isn't passed,
What happens to the money?
we're not real sure. We don't believe it's ever been done before in the state of Colorado, so we're thinking that it possibly could stay at the state level, but I'm not really sure that that would happen. What I have heard is that it would possibly, those excess funds would possibly be distributed back to either the people who paid the sales tax through a formula that the county or some other entity would have to develop, or that they would be returned as a property tax offset for the property taxpayers, although the property taxpayers, in a convoluted way, aren't paying the direct sales tax. So we're really not sure, but that's what we believe will happen with them.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. You did short. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
We'll let her finish cleaning up for a second, and then we'll move on. Don Wilson, if you want to go ahead and start heading up. Don is a Merit Monument. We'll be speaking on Proposition 113. You have a seat.
Ready to go?
Yep, absolutely.
Okay, good evening and thank you. Thank you to the Chamber for having this. My name is Don Wilson, I'm the mayor of the town of Monument, and I'm also the co-sponsor of the referendum against the national popular vote. This was the first citizens referendum in almost 90 years. A citizens referendum is where the citizens challenge what the state legislature has done. And what they have done is enter the state of Colorado into the National Popular Vote Interstate Compact. This compact is not good for Colorado. This compact would essentially put Colorado's electoral votes up for grabs. No matter what the people of Colorado vote, our electoral votes could go to another candidate for president, or even go to a candidate that was not on Colorado's ballot. This year alone, Colorado has 21 candidates for president. Larger cities, larger states, like California, have 4 or 5 candidates. So the National Popular Vote Interstate Compact is bad for Colorado. We're asking for a no vote on this ballot initiative. As some of you may have noticed, this chamber and many chambers around the state have asked for a no vote on this. This is because it's bad for Colorado business. Colorado businesses rely on what Colorado has, and when we elect our president, we take into consideration on our votes stances on agriculture, water, mining. All these things are important to Colorado. Therefore, the people of Colorado should decide where Colorado's votes go. Colorado will be the first state to get a popular vote about the national popular vote. No other state has been allowed to vote on the national popular vote. It's been passed through partisan legislation. All but one of the states that have passed it, it has been a partisan trifecta, meaning the same party has the Senate, the House, and the governorship. So this makes Colorado special, being the first state. California, other states have poured millions of dollars into Colorado for this particular, this ballot initiative. Of the money in Colorado, 98% of it has come from another state supporting national popular vote. Of that 98%, 75% came from California alone. As the Denver news anchor that I rarely agree with, Kyle Clark, put it, California really, really wants your electoral votes. So I'm asking you to please vote no on 113, the national popular vote. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll have time for one question. Like I said, we've given it to the previous individual. Do we have any questions that have come in? Eli?
Yes, sir. What would the ramifications be on tourism if this proposition passes, sir?
Well, going back to this being bad for Colorado business, of the 15 states that have already joined the compact, and you see, 9 of those are rated the worst states for business, being because of their policies, because of their taxes. People don't want to do business in those states. And I think that's how it would affect our tourism. Colorado would still be a place you'd want to visit, but the tourism industry wouldn't want to visit Colorado.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Next up is going to be Ty Winter with the Los Angeles County Republicans, who will be speaking on Proposition 114 and 115.
Good evening, everybody. I want to thank the Chamber for having this event. Good evening, Los Angeles County voters. The upcoming election on November 3rd is not just another election. It will prove to be the most important election in our lifetime. This November, we will decide the future and direction of Los Angeles County, and most importantly, our great nation. There are factions in the county and country that want to control our lives, productivity, and put strangleholds on our freedoms. We cannot allow this to happen. America needs your help. The Los Angeles County Republicans urge you to vote for our great slate of candidates that will fight to preserve life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. We also ask that you study up on this year's ballot initiatives. There are many items on the ballot that will directly affect our rights and our rural way of life. Call us if you have any questions about how to vote, 680-1346, or stop by HQ at 207 East Main Street. I just want to let you guys know we're talking about the ballot initiatives. We will have these down at headquarters, and it does have all the ballot initiatives lined on the back and our stance on that. We also urge you to drop your ballots at the drop boxes. There's going to be one at the courthouse as well as one at City Hall. And if you do have to mail them, make sure that you mail before 10/26. Please get out and vote. Every vote counts. When it comes to the ballot initiatives, the two that I want to speak on this evening, 114 is probably, to me and this rural community, one of the most important. It's the reintroduction of the gray wolf. And I think it will cause a lot of problems for rural America when it comes to our ranchers and farmers, when it comes to animal deprivation, the things they'll have to go to. The gray wolf is already in Colorado. Let's let the ecology take care of itself. And the other issue we were going to speak on is Proposition 115, and we ask you to vote yes on that, and it's a ban on abortions after 22 weeks. Thank you very much. Have a good evening, and please, everybody get out to vote. It's our civic duty. Thank you.
Okay. Well, we are right on schedule. Thank you, everyone who gave information on that. Once she's finished cleaning up, we're going to be calling Ike McCorkle, who's going to be running for Congressional District number 4. Sorry about that, we had someone unexpected show up. It's going to be added to the agenda, so sorry to step away. So, Mike, if you want to go ahead, we're going to allow 3 minutes for an opening statement, then we're going to be allowing between 6 and 8 minutes for questions, and then an additional 3 minutes for closing.
Great. Is it all right if I speak like this?
Absolutely.
Thanks. Good evening. Thank you all so much for having me. I can't tell you how much I appreciate it. I appreciate each and every one of you being here and participating in the democratic process. I'm Ike McCorkle. I'm a retired Marine officer, Purple Heart recipient, and I'm a proud father of 3 kids in Douglas County schools, and I'm running to represent you in the United States Congress. I'm running for office because I recognized that the institutions of state that I swore to support and defend were being compromised in a significant manner. I recognized that because of that, my children's future was in jeopardy. The future of our democratic institutions was in jeopardy. I'm running for office because I'm terrified of what we're leaving for our children. In a divided and in many ways a failing democracy, in an unaddressed environmental catastrophe, and in a terribly handled global pandemic. I'm running for office because I care deeply about each and every one of you. I care about your children's future, and I care about rural America's future. For decades, rural America has been abandoned by the establishment. Abandoned in terms of investment in infrastructure and in terms of investment in the social safety nets that once made our nation and our nation's middle class the envy of the world. And if you remember absolutely nothing else that I say this evening, I want you to remember this. When you walk out your door in the morning and you look across the street and you look to your left and you look to your right and you see your neighbors, we're not Democrats. We're not independents. We are not Republicans. We are all United States Americans. We need to start treating each other with dignity and with respect again. And we need to start fighting for legislation that will set the conditions that will improve Americans' quality of life, that will raise our wages, that will reinvest in our rural communities, that will invest in our children's educational institutions, repair our roads and bridges, build the renewable energy systems of the future that we need to create the good paying, sustainable jobs that our children's generations will depend on. I'm Mike McCorkle, and I would love to entertain your questions this evening.
Thank you. I'll start at your end and we can work our way down.
Eli DeBona, KCRT. Mr. McCorkle, would you or would you not support legislation crafted to reduce workers' compensation for small business owners?
I would not support legislation that compromised support of small businesses in any manner. In fact, I think we need federal leadership on this issue to ensure that the funds that are in the HEROES Act and in other federal legislation, like in the COVID relief bills, that is specifically designated and allocated specifically for small businesses, so that those with the legal powers to do so, large corporations and corporate ag, don't have the ability to monopolize the entirety of those funds. We need to ensure that they go to our small businesses, so I would not support legislation that compromised investment or support small businesses in any way.
Thank you, Mr. McCorkle.
Hi, this is Dr. Gasser from the World Journal. We have a question from the Facebook live stream. What is your viewpoint on the possibility of the new elk mine opening up?
Can you say that question one more time?
Sure. What is your opinion on the possibility of the new elk mine opening up?
The new elk mine, the coal mine. So for this specific issue, what we need to be focused on is job creation in sustainable markets and in sustainable energy markets specifically. What we need is federal shifting of subsidization and tax incentives to renewable energy production systems and companies that show that they are rapidly transitioning. In this legislation, we need to ensure that it contains a federal jobs guarantee for workers in the energy industry, so that we can expand employment in that industry, not shut it down, and also not poison our air, land, and water in the process.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Kirk Loudon with the Chronicle News. What is the single biggest issue you think you can make a difference in once you take office?
Yeah, I think the single biggest issue that I can make a difference in is leadership. There's a crisis in integrity and in leadership in Washington. We need leaders that can reach across the aisle, that have a demonstrated capacity to communicate and conduct the deliberative process. In the Marine Corps, you don't get to choose your staff. You don't get to choose their orientation, their ethnicity, their place of origin. And you have to work with them, and you have to get a job done toward a common in-state goal. And we need leadership that can bring our leadership in the United States legislature together around the national security threats that actually face us today, instead of scapegoating and pandering divisive party politics.
Thank you. We've got time for one more question.
This is a question from the World Journal, which would be, what is your specific plan for revitalizing economics here in the rural communities of southern Colorado?
Right, so there are many aspects to it. One of the aspects I've already mentioned is a significant federal investment in renewable energy systems. We need to stand up a climate conservation corps similar to civilian conservation corps that existed in the past. In 1939, the Civilian Conservation Corps and the Work Progress Administration had paved 280,000 miles of road. They had expanded rural electrification. They had built dams, roads, bridges, and thousands of schools and hospitals. We need federal investment, and we need a Rural Reinvestment Act at the federal level in order to revitalize our rural communities the thing that I think that we can get done immediately, so a lot of the things that I talk about are big ideas, like installing a completely renewable energy system. But one of the things that we can do to immediately create an influx of revenue and create jobs right in our communities is repairing our roads and our bridges and our infrastructure. And we need federal leadership, and we need myriad federal and state dollars invested in our communities to get it done.
Okay, thank you. I think we have, haven't heard our timekeeper yet. How are we going to share?
If we have time for one more question, we have one more from the Facebook Live audience.
Yeah, I think Eli was actually waiting for one more too as well. Let's go ahead and shift back over that direction.
Eli DeBono, KCRT Phillips Broadcasting. Mr. McCorkle, what does your platform encompass in terms of helping unemployed individuals in your district?
Yeah, so the question is, how are we going to help out the unemployed community? Essentially, since the economic effects of COVID-19 have, devastated employment in our rural communities and urban communities alike, we need the creation of opportunity. The way that you create opportunity is by investing in public works projects to employ those individuals that have lost their jobs and their livelihood due to the devastating effects of COVID-19 and due to the devastating economic effects of the tariffs and the trade wars that came before COVID-19, but also devastated our rural communities. We need significant reinvestment in our rural communities. We need a Rural Reinvestment Act. We need legislation that will set the conditions that will create opportunity.
Thank you, sir.
You've got 3 minutes for a closing statement.
Thank you all. I can't tell you again how much I appreciate you being here. Like I said, if you remember nothing else that I said this evening, remember that when you look across the street and to your left and right, that your neighbors are not independents, Republicans, or Democrats. We're all United States Americans. I'm running for office to fight for the nation that I believed in, to fight for a better tomorrow, to fight for my children's future, and to restore integrity, the people's trust and confidence in a functional government. Dwight D. Eisenhower warned us about the dangerous potentials of the congressional military-industrial complex to corrupt the motivation of the legislature to serve the people. He was talking specifically about our own arms industries, about our own fossil fuel corporations' capacities to corrupt the motivation of the legislature to serve. Since the passing of Citizens United, foreign funds have poured into our electoral process. Many of our legislators accept hundreds of thousands of dollars more from lobbyists, from corrupt corporate political action committees, which are nothing more than bribes. We need people in office who are going to fight for us, not the left or the right, but they're going to fight for United States Americans, and they're going to fight to get corruption out of our government. I'm Ike McCorkle. I served 18 years almost in the United States Marines. I received the Purple Heart. I did 6 deployments, 4 combat tours. The nation that I fought for, that believes in liberty, justice, equality, and opportunity for all, is just beyond the next election, just beyond November. Vote. I cannot emphasize it enough. Talk to your friends, talk to your neighbors, talk to your families. Get to the polls. Vote. I'm Ike McCorkle, retired Marine, Purple Heart recipient, and proud father. And I'm running to fight for you in the United States Congress. Thank you for having me this evening. I just finished up by saying, I'm Ike McCorkle, retired Marine, Purple Heart recipient, and proud father, and I'm fighting for you in the United States Congress. Thank you for having me this evening.
Okay, next we're going to be introducing Carlos Lopez and Cleve Simpson, who are running for Senate District 35. If you guys want to start making your way to the front, let them finish cleaning up, and then you guys are free to take a seat. Okay, we're going to go basically through the same process. We're going to give each of you guys 3 minutes as introduction. We're going to take approximately 16 minutes for questions. You each will have opportunity to answer. Keep it down, try to keep it between 1 and 2 minutes on answers. We're going to go ahead and start with you, Carlos, if you'd like to give that 3-minute introduction.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you, Trinidad State Junior College, Dr. Epper, and also the Los Animas County Trinidad Chamber of Commerce for hosting this event. I have 3 major issues that I would like to work on if I have the honor to serve you in the State Senate. Issues that I believe that are essential for our future. We need a reinvestment in the infrastructure of Southern Colorado. And the most important part of that infrastructure is our citizens, you and I. Issue number 1, for me, is rural education. Too many of our young people are leaving their hometowns and never returning. They are often forced to do this because they don't have any opportunities, and their educations and jobs are they're not applicable for them here. I want to bring in a 2-year trade program to our local junior colleges that focus on good paying jobs. Trade programs that provide high demand skilled and wages for graduates that do not have to leave them drowning in student debt, and help the community at large, which much needed skilled workers can contribute to. I'm encouraged by the Attorney General's grant for building trades programs at our 3 southeastern Colorado community colleges, and hope to work on expanding funding for other industries and trades. Issue number 2, for me, is going to be rural healthcare. We must improve our rural healthcare system. Even though I was raised in Trinidad, I am Southern Colorado through and through, and I wasn't born in Colorado. Why? Because 41 years ago, I was born in Raton, New Mexico, because that's where I had to be born. We still have mothers delivering on the side of the road now, going in transit to Pueblo, and that is not acceptable. We need to make sure that our parents and grandparents aren't living out their golden years as well in substandardized retirement homes. So I'm going to fight to force the state government to realize healthcare issues in Colorado exist in more than just Denver and Boulder. Issue number 3, the future of agriculture and natural resources. We all know that water is the lifeblood of our region, and we also know that Mother Nature is not being bountiful as she once was. However, we cannot just hope and see if heavy winter snowpacks return. We need to start now to prepare for the future before it's too late for our communities. We need to explore new options and practices that will help our farmers and ranchers stay on their land for generations to come. I'm tired of hearing that the only option people have is selling their water rights and moving away. I'm going to work with state and ag departments to develop grants for farmers and ranchers to explore alternative methods for changing the environment while exploring alternative forms of energies that can be produced on large tracts of land. And then we can also be blessed with unlimited solar and wind in our region. So therefore, let's put that to good use and sell power to the cities instead of our water. An essential component to making sure all this works is rural broadband. We have to have it. We are just as smart, we are just as talented as other people in other parts of the state. We're just not playing on the same playing field. So in order to get all these 3 topics accomplished, rural broadband has got to be increased here in Southern Colorado. Thank you very much for this opportunity. My name is Carlos Lopez, and I'm running for State Senate as a proud Democrat for Senate District number 35.
Thank you. Dave?
Thank you, Andrew. I'm Cleve Simpson. I'm the Republican candidate for District 35 of the Colorado State Senate. Rural proud and rural strong. Thanks to the host and the sponsors, it's my honor and privilege to be here at TSJC tonight. The people of rural Colorado inspire me to do more for my community by uplifting all Coloradans and bringing us together to improve our standard of living. I'm passionate about rural Colorado and will work tirelessly to assure rural Colorado remains relevant, resilient, and prosperous. I'm a farmer, rancher, an engineer, and a water manager. I was born and raised in Alamosa on my family's farm and ranch. I'm a 4th generation San Luis Valley ag producer and native Coloradan. I'm a graduate of the Colorado School of Mines with a degree in mine engineering. I'm happily married to the same wonderful woman for 37 years now. We have one son and are soon-to-be first-time grandparents. I have a proven record of collaborative, engaged, effective leadership with demonstrated results as the manager of complex surface coal mine operations in Texas and Australia, the chairman of the board of trustees at Adams State University, where we work to keep ASU radically affordable. Currently the general manager of the Rio Grande Water Conservation District, managing the challenging water security issues in the Rio Grande Basin. This Senate district, the largest legislative district in the state, covers an area from the Continental Divide to the Kansas border. The San Luis Valley, the Wet Mountain Valley, the Arkansas Valley, and the Southern Front Range are not that dissimilar. Our communities, economies, and culture are largely dominated by agriculture. Los Angeles County is somewhat unique, and it's also blessed with other abundant natural resources like oil, gas, and coal. I provide the constituents of Senate District 35 someone well-versed in agriculture and statewide water issues. I absolutely support the oil and gas industry and know those extractions can occur safely and in an environmentally sensitive manner. The opportunity to add hundreds of good-paying jobs here with the potential reopening of the New Elk coal mine is exciting. I've met with the new owners of the mine and am committed to working with the community to gain all necessary assurances from the owners that they can operate the mine safely and with an abundance of environmental sensitivity. Another valuable resource is this institution of higher learning here. It can and should be foundational in driving the economic recovery of southern Colorado and northern New Mexico. The pandemic has spurred a new sense of innovation and ingenuity that the college can leverage going forward. Plentiful opportunities do exist in this district with the right leadership, working with our urban counterparts to bridge the growing gap between rural and urban areas of our state. This is a wonderful opportunity to pivot away from that growing divide. People across the state have a renewed interest in sourcing where their food and water are derived from. A great opportunity for us to leverage that interest and remind our urban counterparts how valuable rural Colorado is to urban Colorado. We have the opportunity to shape our own future. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we're going to have about 16 to 20 minutes for questions. Like I said, each of you guys will have an opportunity to answer. Carlos, since you went first on the introduction, Cleve, you'll go first on questions, and we'll continue to rotate back and forth. Kurt, you've had the least amount of questions up to this point. Do you have any on your end?
Yes, I do. I'm going to blame this one on Garrett, our reporter, and I've been dying to ask this question ever since he wrote it. It's been said that sane people do not go into politics. And it seems like a hell of a time to get into politics at this point. Why would, and my microphone went dead. They love the question. Why does the specific office you're running for appeal to you, and how did you decide to run?
Just to be first. So it appealed to me because of, my passion for rural Colorado. I could see a path forward where rural Colorado really runs the risk of being marginalized. The population of the state is expected to double by 2050, and it's not going to double in Alamos and Trinidad and Lamar and Lahana. It'll double from Pueblo to Fort Collins predominantly. The pressures on rural Colorado, specifically agriculture, and how we support that really unlimited growth, caused me, a grave concern to think about what the future of rural Colorado was going to look like. My son is the 5th generation of my family to farm and ranch, and hopefully, my soon-to-be grandson can be the 6th if we're kind of thoughtful and careful about how the future of Colorado unfolds going forward. That's what really motivated me, my passion and interest in making sure rural Colorado stays relevant.
So for me, the main interest why I wanted to run initially was to bring a 4-year university down to southern Colorado in the southeastern quadrant, because I felt that would be a great economic driver for us, one of us down here. But after I got to meet Dr. Epper, I realized we don't need to have a 4-year school. We can improve upon what we already have. So I pivoted into why I wanted to run, but it was still based on economic growth. And I feel that with these 16 counties, we could be a real powerhouse when it comes to legislative control up in the north. Sure, they may have a population, but there's a reason why we have the size. So we have 16 different offices, whether it's a sheriff's office, our Department of Human Services, all of our county commissioners grouping. We could come together and really be a dominant force for southeastern and southern Colorado along the I-25 corridor as well. So with that being said, We need a strong leader up north to voice our concerns for us. We need people that are going to say, hey, some of these resources need to start coming down here because we are just as deserving of these provisions. And that's why I decided to run.
So this is a question that we have from the Facebook Live stream, which is, would you financially support and encourage the implementation of apprenticeship trade programs to both candidates?
Is that to me first? Oh, sorry.
Go ahead, yeah. He was first after.
I'm sorry, I didn't know.
That's what I'm saying. You go first.
Okay. Definitely. In fact, blue-collar trades are one of my key platform points. Right now, we need to really push for 2-year programs so that way our young people can turn out without a huge amount of debt crushing them, and they can go out making an earning of like $30 an hour. I mean, we want to make sure that our young people have something to come home to. So for me, innovative trades are where it's at. I sit on the Arkansas River Power Authority board now, a board that I was placed on after I left City Council here in Trinidad. And I have been learning about all these new types of technologies and innovative trades that can be lucrative. So besides having a Green New Deal that's great for our planet, we have one that's good for our wallet. One that's going to make sure that we have good economy coming into southern Colorado so that way our young people who turn out, with these good blue-collar jobs are able to contribute also to the rest of our retail and dining and other economic avenues that we have in southern Colorado.
Well, the short answer is absolutely yes. I've seen that unfold at Trinidad State Junior College in Alamosa with welding programs and carpentry and diesel mechanics and aquaculture. That, the path to success doesn't revolve around a 4-year degree for everybody. There's an abundance of need and necessity for skilled tradespeople. And I think our rural institutions are perfectly leveraged to provide that opportunity. So I absolutely would support that.
Eli, go ahead.
Eli DeBono, KCRT, Phillips Broadcasting. I'm guessing this is a Facebook question to, I'm gathering, Mr. Simpson. You have announced, or you have given a quote, I have a bill ready to protect the San Luis Valley water. And did you engage with any stakeholder, water association organization in the San Luis Valley or anywhere else concerning this bill? And have you shared the contents of this bill with anyone?
So it's actually, I believe, directed to my opponent. That's not a statement I made.
Okay. It wasn't clarified here, so, okay, Mr. Lopez?
Yes, language that I would produce is going to entail a bill that will, it will curtail water from being moved out of the San Luis Valley or Division 3, so that way it would not be purposefully moved out of the region. Now, of course, I cannot draft this bill. No one that's a legislator drafts it. They have people in the General Assembly that are their legal scholars who produce these bills. I come up with the idea. So that is my intent when it comes to producing a bill. I think that any assisting of a project that diverts water from a water division of Division 3, especially from the Rio Grande River, would be beneficial for the people of the San Luis Valley.
Thank you, Mr. Lopez.
Can I?
You can, absolutely.
So it's irresponsible to put forward a proposal that you can draft legislation to protect the water in the San Luis Valley. People have tried to do that for 50 years on the Colorado River, the Arkansas River, the South Platte River. It's a monumental task that requires an abundance of thought and engagement with the numerous stakeholders. It's just not practical to think a brand new legislator with no water experience is ready to introduce a bill that can limit or eliminate diversion of water out of the Rio Grande Basin.
Thank you, Mr. Simpson.
Kurt, any questions on your side?
Sure. You guys both talked about education. Can you guys give me 2 points each where you feel you can elevate where we are right now as far as the education system in the state?
I'm sorry, ask the question again.
You talked about education, both of you did. Can you guys give me at least 2 points on how you feel you can elevate the state of education in the state?
Is it to me first?
Yes.
Yeah. So again, my experience on Adams State University Board of Trustees, at least from a higher education perspective, and spending time dealing with the funding model, the opportunity would be there to really engage with the legislature and the Joint Budget Committee about how the funding model is structured and how it's very results driven instead of mission driven, and the opportunity to really highlight the special, unique missions that Adams State and Trinidad State and Lamar and Ontario provide for these communities. Is where I would, start that effort and that focus. Unfortunately, there's only a certain amount of money that's funding higher ed. So when you do those kind of conversations, you're really talking about moving money from CSU and CU and diverting it from my perspective to institutions that serve a greater purpose.
Thank you. For higher education opportunities, I do have ideas. I would like to provide more resources from surplus funds of the general fund to go towards community and junior colleges that provide innovative trade programs for blue-collar trades. I would also like to create a state fund from the Department of Higher Education and use data based on a protocol to determine which schools are providing these particular trade programs that are producing high-paying jobs. I believe that we really need to impress upon Tom McGimpsey, who's the chair, and Vanessa Kerr, the vice chair, of the Department of Education or Higher Education, that our rural schools play a pivotal role in accomplishing these needs. Now, when it comes to K through 12, I have an idea. We can utilize the marijuana tax law. If you look at Colorado Revised Statutes 39-28.8-203, and if you can manipulate the percentages of funding right now that go through our K through 12 funding. A lot of us were told that the marijuana tax funds were going to go towards education. And sure, some of them do, but only 12.59%. And really, we're diverting 70% to other ends. So what I want to do is manipulate those numbers through a statutory mechanism so that we can, without raising taxes, start to move what we thought was going to be educational funding from the marijuana tax law into our K through 12 schools.
Thank you. Todd?
Tom Gaston, World Journal. I have a question from the YouTube audience. This person's concerned about the homeless situation in Trinidad and raises the question for both gentlemen, what your plans are for legislation relating to homeless situations here in Trinidad and elsewhere in the rural communities.
Carlos, start with you.
Okay. Well, there have been programs which have been funded with gap funding from the Department of Local Affairs Division of Housing. And it is called Permanent Supportive Housing. It is a program that I was part of a team that learned about these toolkits that were put on by the Department of Local Affairs while I was on City Council. They are funded. They are having mechanisms that provide behavioral and mental health clinicians on site. They also provide life skill development, and also they're going to provide job opportunities for those who are seeking them. And also harm reduction methods, which is the key thing, avoiding drugs and alcohol. Now, you're not going to completely dissolve and have someone quit cold turkey, but the harm reduction method is intended to get people to go from, say, a handle of hard alcohol a day, maybe down to a six-pack, and it's just that continuing method to go down. Now, while on City Council, people were up in arms sometimes about our homeless population. I always felt that doing nothing wasn't a solution. Now, I know that there's other programs like Journey Home, there's also La Puente in Alamosa. There's several of them that have turned out to be successful in terms of producing results in a significant manner that you can't quantify with numbers. You have to quantify by people. You have to say, someone in Mr. DeBono's family came out of this and they're better now. How do we quantify success when it comes to human lives when we're trying to impress upon people that we're all in this together? And if we just continue to sweep it under the rug, that's not a solution. We need to be innovative and look for funded mechanisms that are going to help us in our small communities.
And Mr. Lopez, would that include needle exchange programs?
No, it does not include a needle exchange program. Permanent supportive housing has never indulged in that particular topic. To my knowledge, it is not applicable.
So the best thing we can do for improving the homeless situation is revive and get a strong economy up and running again and providing people with opportunities to be employed. There are services like La Puente and Alamosa that can help fill the gap. Fort Lyons is a wonderful example of what the state can do to help transition people out of homelessness into more permanency. So it really, for me, centers around reinvigorating the economy across Colorado and giving people the opportunity to be successful and offering a hand up when it's necessary.
Eli?
Eli DeBono, KCRT, Phillips Broadcasting. Gentlemen, whoever wants to start first. If elected, what 3 steps would you take to put District 35 on a firmer financial footing?
Go ahead, please.
Well, that's an interesting question. To put the district itself on a stronger financial footing, I would make sure agriculture is supported and not restricted, that we're doing things to, again, sustain and build a vibrant agricultural economy. There is an opportunity here, again, with the pandemic, with COVID, and people's appreciation for where their food is sourced from. If I want to take one of my steers to be processed right now, this time last year I could have it in the next week. Now it's next year before I can get that animal in to be processed. So there's a gap, there's an opportunity here to work with the state. Maybe we have a state inspection program. Other states have state inspection programs for processing animals. Texas does this. It would really I can't pick 3 steps. I would focus on making sure agriculture stays really vibrant and strong moving forward.
Thank you, Mr. Simpson. Mr. Lopez?
Yes, thank you. First and foremost, I would offer better COVID-19 relief for our farmers and ranchers. They're still reeling from the 2018 drought and then the late freeze in 2019, and right now they're not getting any kind of PPP from the federal government because a lot of them will utilize independent contractors for their staffing because it's seasonal work. So I would really like to work hard to make sure that we have more of these types of funding mechanisms in place for our rural agricultural neighbors. Second, I would really like to work on getting some recourse for our people out in the region where we have conservation easement problems. So a lot of people who were sold a bill of sale that if you put your property on a conservation easement, you're going to get a tax credit. And they did. And then they sold it off to a large corporation, and there was a broker in the middle, and then the last 11th hour of the 4th year before the statutory limit ran out, the Department of Revenue came in and said, no, actually your value of your property is assessed at 0. So now you have to pay back what you owe on this tax credit that you sold. Well, they don't have that money. They've already used it for implements or farming equipment or whatever it may have been. So I really want to give these people a recourse avenue because now they're taking out second mortgages on their homes, and that's not right. Another thing I'd like to do is really focus on new innovative production of energy resources. And I'm very proud to say that I have been in connection with Mr. Mark Sexton from Evergreen Natural Resources and also with another agency up in the Maryland area who came to Trinidad and speak to us about geothermal opportunities. Geothermal is a very clean mechanism that can produce energy which we can sell to other parts of the country, not just the state, and it can be a great revenue source and also a tax revenue source for our communities. Lastly, we just have to make sure we give opportunities to our people here. That's the biggest thing that either of us are really going to want to do. The thing that makes us different, though, is I just have these different kind of ideas about how we can actually be tangible.
Thank you, Mr. Lopez.
Thank you.
Kirk, any on your end?
I think we're almost out of time.
We're doing pretty good right now on time. We can go probably 1 or 2 more questions. Okay, Todd?
This is a question for both gentlemen here. What is your position on the Green New Deal with respect to it being beneficial or harmful for Trinidad and Los Animas County?
Carlos, go and take this one first.
I'm all in favor of the Green New Deal as long as we utilize the energy production companies that we currently have as a pivotal stakeholder so they can be the ones that transition to the next future of energy production. So for instance, we have a lot of natural gas down here. And I would like to see that we still continue to nurture our natural gas entities here so that way they can be the forerunner for new jobs and going into geothermal, pyrolysis, solar, wind, whatever it may be, because they already have the resources and the engineers to develop the R&D. So I think we have to work with our current producers to set them on the right course for future energy production. We are a coal town. And we don't fuel our homes with coal anymore. And when we switched over to natural gas back in the 60s, I believe it was, maybe it's Doc Donnelly who was part of that initiative, People were up in arms against him, but he saw the vision in the fact that we needed to transition. Now we look back and we don't use those pole shoots that are in our homes anymore. They're relics of a time gone by. We need to be thinking to the future. Thank you.
The Green New Deal is not good for Los Animas County or for southern Colorado. That abundance of natural gas here is a real gem and a real opportunity for Los Animas County. And the Green New Deal would have us do away with that natural gas extraction. It's ironic that the coal mines I worked at over nearly 2 decades, most of those are now closed because of the abundance of natural gas. That coal we were using to generate electricity is now being replaced by natural gas. There's a bit of a natural transition away, I think, from natural gas to renewables, but it should be market-driven and consumer-driven and not mandated by the government. The other complexities about me as a farmer and the concept of having, no environmental impact, my diesel tractor and my cows, I find the Green New Deal truly problematic and not a good deal for Los Animas or southern Colorado.
Thank you both. We'll go ahead and start with you, Cleve. Go ahead and you have 3 minutes for closing statements.
Great, thank you. Thank you again for the opportunity to be here this evening. The challenges and the opportunities in this district and the state are extensive. COVID recovery, both the health side and the economic side, as we deal with a $3 billion shortfall this fiscal year and likely a $1 billion plus shortfall next year. Rather than focus on where to cut, we should be focused more on how to get this economy safely back on track. Pressures on supporting and maintaining productive agriculture's $40 billion per year economic impact to the state don't tax and regulate us out of business. Pressures on water resources, actively working to avoid the pitfalls of traditional buy and drive agriculture land to support front range growth. Watershed and forest health, funding for education, preschool through higher education, access to quality affordable health care, mental health challenges, economic development. The time is now to come together and shape our future as we want it to be. The polarization and divisiveness is not productive. I humbly offer you my service as a citizen legislator, not a politician. I won't make you promises that can't be kept. I won't say or do anything just to get elected. I won't introduce poorly thought out legislation without stakeholder engagement. The legislation is full of those already, with 600 to 700 pieces introduced the last couple of years each session, with many of them postponed indefinitely. There's tremendous broad support for my candidacy as others recognize the commitment and skill set I would bring to the legislature on behalf of the constituents of Senate District 35. Former U.S. Congressman and former Colorado Commissioner of Agriculture, John Salazar. My friend and mentor, John's brother, Leroy Salazar. The Colorado Education Association, Teachers Union, Colorado Farm Bureau, Rocky Mountain Farmers Union, Colorado Chamber of Commerce, Colorado Rural Electric Association, Colorado Realtors Association, the Colorado Medical Society, and Healthier Colorado, just to name a few. I've already established a variety of connections with the district, state, and federal partners that will benefit the constituency. The Colorado Commissioner of Agriculture, the Attorney General and his staff, the Executive Director of DNR, CWCB Executive Director, the State Engineer, Colorado Water Congress, the Department of Higher Education, Senator Michael Bennett's staff, Senator Cory Gardner's staff, multiple federal agencies, the BLM, U.S. Forest Service, U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, U.S. Park Service, and the Bureau of Reclamation. Legislators are public servants, and I will always adhere to that principle. I work for you. I'll be that strong voice working to bridge the gap between rural and urban Colorado. I'm blessed to have this opportunity to serve you and would greatly appreciate your support and vote on November the 3rd. God bless you all.
Go ahead, Carlos.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you, TSJC, the Trinidad Los Animas County Chamber of Commerce, Dr. Epper. I'd like to thank my opponent for driving all the way out here because, these forums do take time and they take a lot of thought and process. And I just want to let you know that I didn't prepare something for my closing statement. I'd rather just speak to you. If you want to look at my endorsements, go to my website, carloslopezforcolorado.com. They're there. They're good. But I can tell you this. What I'm proposing is ideas. I am proposing ways that we can continue to preserve our way of life while preparing for the future. I mean, ultimately, isn't that what we want? We want to make sure that our children have a better opportunity than we do, because right now that's not happening. We have some serious issues with COVID right now, as we are all in the reflection of explode because of its heavy touch. And we need to make sure that when we get to where we need to be, we are ready, we are prepared, and we are well educated on how we are going to propose to move forward. And ultimately, that's what it comes down to, education. We all need to be better educated, and I really want to make sure that we have those opportunities for our children, for our young adults, and for our elderly. It's sad that right now in Southern Colorado, our nursing homes are in shambles. And I really think about the poor families that have to feel pressured to put their loved ones there. We need to look out for our youth, our elderly, and our mentally challenged. And I think you judge a nation by how they treat their worst, not by how they treat their best. And right now, we all need to pull ourselves up together from our bootstraps to make sure that we all have opportunities for the future of not only just the state, but our country. How do we do that if we're constantly in disarray and pulling hairs out because of little discrepancies? We need to make sure that we're looking out for each other, because that's all we got. And right now, I'm looking to work hard for you. I'm coming up with ideas, not promises, ideas, because that's what turns into tangible effects. That's what got me into the City Council of Trinidad, my ideas. And we were able to turn some great things around in this community. And I'm willing to take that momentum to the next level and fight hard for you. I want to work with you, for you, not at you. I don't like unfunded mandates. I think they're ridiculous. Senate Bill 217 has really impacted our sheriff's offices negatively, and I think that was ridiculous. We need to work with each other. And I'm going to be that strong voice for you. So this fall, vote for Carlos Lopez. Vote for opportunity, because that's what I propose to bring for the rest of us, for future generations. Thank you so much.
Thank you both for your time. On about 16 minutes for Q&A, since there would have been two of you. We're going to limit that down to about 8 minutes at this point then. And then I'll give you 3 minutes for a closing statement.
Well, thank you very much to Las Animas County, to Trinidad. I'd be more than happy to take the 16 minutes for Q&A if we want to take the time, because I have a lot of things to say about what's important to the state of Colorado and what's important to House District 64, Southern Colorado, Southeastern Colorado, and Eastern Colorado. I will tell you that I am passionate about what I'm doing, and most of you know that I replaced Kimmy Clark-Lewis from Kim, Colorado, and what a strong voice for rural Colorado she was. Without a doubt, when I was appointed to take her place due to an unexpected medical condition and her passing in December, I had some really big boots to fill. But I will tell you that I have worked very hard in her honor and out of respect for Southern Colorado to fill those big boots. And I believe if you look at what I've done at the state capitol and what I continue to do in House District 64, that you would feel that I'm definitely honoring her legacy. As you know, I'm a third-generation rancher from Washington County. I'm also a military veteran who served 29 years, both active, National Guard, and reserve duty. I retired as a colonel and had some of the best of times and worst of times with my military service, but I will tell you I've got some of the best education the United States Army can hand out to an officer. And I'm using that as veteran leadership for rural Colorado. I will tell you that I have received many, many endorsements and much support from so many people across the state and so many organizations across the state. The only place you can start to read all about that is in my website, which is www.ccrtnj.org. www.holtourforcolorado.com. And for those of you that are out in social media land, I urge you to go look at that right now and take a look at some of those things that are on that. And you can formulate some of your questions. Now I will tell you, I'm the kind of person that I like hardball questions. Don't throw me any softballs. Because I will tell you something, Colorado, I will tell you something, southern and southeastern Colorado. We have some of the biggest challenges in our history to face with COVID-19, COVID-19 recovery, COVID-19 recovery, economic recovery, and turning this great state around. A Western state, a Rocky Mountain state, steeped in Western heritage and traditions. I will tell you, I will defend all our history, including what Colorado was built on, mining. And I'm not going to get into those details right now, but mining, agriculture, energy. Those things built our state and many others, and we were very innovative and progressive. So, I welcome this opportunity. I'm sorry that my opponent, Dean Ormiston, was not able to be here. I look forward to meeting him. I haven't met him on the campaign trail yet, and I still look forward to that meeting. I'd like to shake his hand, and I'm sure that over the next month I'll have that opportunity. So thank you, sir, for that.
Sure. Do we have any questions yet? Want to start on your side, Eli?
Sure. Eli DeBono, KCRT, Phillips Broadcasting. Mr. Holtrup, you're talking about challenges. Besides the COVID-19 pandemic challenge, what is your single most challenge that faces not only District 64, but statewide right now, and how do you propose to deal with that challenge, sir?
Okay, thank you, Eli. That's a very tough question. Challenges to our state. I'm going to break that up into about 3 parts, if you'll allow me. The first is, and you said COVID-19, not discounting COVID-19 recovery, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so we're not going to talk about COVID-19 recovery, which ties directly into economic recovery. But I'm going to start with a health issue that we have. I'm going to start with an energy issue that we have that is huge. These are challenges. And I'm going to start, and I'm going to continue and talk about the economy. And I'm going to tie that to agricultural economy and those things that are very important to what I hold dear, which is production agriculture. So let's talk about healthcare right now. We have huge problems with healthcare. If we talk about, I served on the Public Health and Human Services Committee, so I witnessed this firsthand. So I will tell you, we'll start off with the drug addiction problem in Colorado and in southern and southeastern Colorado. And I will also dovetail that into the mental health issues that come from substance abuse and the corrosiveness on our societal foundations and structures. We have to talk about, we have to reverse what I call the drug culture. It's not okay to use drugs. They're harmful to you. Now, I'm not going to pick on recreational marijuana. You know, this is a free country. You can do what you want with your body. You can make your own decisions with that. But I will say we have to talk about the corrosiveness of illicit and illegal drugs. Methamphetamines is tearing our society apart. The associated problems on families in our cities, in our towns, in rural Colorado, are tearing the fabric of this state and our counties apart. We all see it. I have it in my own family. My brother's spouse has succumbed to heroin and lost the right to even see her children because of this. Now, where does it start? Number one, we have to stop glamorizing drug use. We have to start thinking it's okay, it's cool. We have to stop rattling off all the different kinds of drugs there are better than we can rattle off the periodic table that we learn in chemistry class. You want to talk about education? When we can talk more about illicit drugs on a Saturday night than we can about chemistry class and the periodic table, something is wrong with our society. nursing homes, seniors. We've got to take care of our seniors. Now, I don't want to pick on the governor of the state of New York, but I will tell you, when you put infected COVID-19 patients in a nursing home and think that's part of a good idea, I don't know where that comes from. We need to protect our seniors in such a special way. Those people that are having those issues, and I'm getting back to COVID-19, so I'm going to step away from that again because we said we were going to talk about that. But we have to talk about helping our societies. These homeless people out there, they have mental health issues. How do we support and build mental health capacity in our communities, in our public health organizations? That happens both at the county level, in our regional levels, and at the state level. It's going to take more funding, okay? So we have to try to find that. We might have to reallocate resources and say we want to take care of people. Because I will tell you something, ladies and gentlemen, I put people over policy, and I put people over party, and I put people over politics. You want to talk about people? Let's take care of people. So now I'm going to transition. I talk a little bit about the health issue. Let me go into energy. I am sick and tired of traditional energy sources being attacked. And I know the people of Trinidad and the people of Los Angeles County and the people of southeastern Colorado and the people of eastern Colorado want that to stop. Now, I agree that technology will move in a natural progression if we let it move. I'm not opposed to green new energy. I'm not opposed to renewable energy. I think it has a future. It may be the future. But you can't just draw a line and say in 2025 or 2035 or 2030, we're going to do this because we say so. That's not right. Now, I don't want to pick on the people on the other side of my chamber. There's a lot of good people over there. But there's some people that are very misguided. We need all energy sources. We need to transition smoothly and find a logical way to move from our traditional energy to our future energy. And I think our energy of the future is something we don't even know what it is today. But we can't attack our coal mines. We can't shut our coal mines down. Colorado was built on mining. That's part of our Western heritage and our history. And I'm not going to turn my back to it because of my idealistic ideas, or what I think is more important than what's important for this state. And I've told people at the Capitol that. I said, you can't shut down all these energy sectors. You can't shut down natural gas. Natural gas can be developed. It can burn clean. We can develop more technologies to make the carbon emissions much reduced on natural gas if we want to put our scientists to work on that. Clean energy, clean coal, clean natural gas, clean gasoline. And let us have a natural progression to the energy of the future. But stop attacking what is important to Colorado and your county. I know I might be taking one more point if you'll let me, sir, and then you can follow. Let me talk about the economy. Everything is tied to the economy. I'm a bottom-up guy. Your local economies are healthy because of microeconomies, your small businesses, your little mom-and-pop stores, and it goes up from there. When you have a merger of microeconomies that are healthy at the bottom and macroeconomies that are coming down, and we have this fusion, which we've had, all of a sudden, all boats rise in a rising tide. Everything gets better. Notice how crime goes down when the economy is high. Suicides go down when the economy is up. That's not by accident. I learned that when I went to Boston University and got my first master's degree. You can look at my website and check my education credentials. I will tell you that this is so important that we understand. And I'm an agricultural guy, and I have 30 seconds, I see that. So agriculture, Benjamin Franklin said, is the most important sector of our economy, and it's actually so important it's part of our national security. We have to be able to feed ourselves. Because if you don't have food, you will have chaos. You haven't seen anything until you run out of food in this country. So we can't let that happen. So we always have to go back to supporting the breadbasket of our community. In Los Angeles County, we have a lot of robust agricultural production. So I'm going to stop there and let you with your follow-up, sir.
Well, I really don't have a follow-up. I just wanted to thank you for your service to our country, and KCRT would like to thank you for the great interview that you provided for our FYI Public Affairs program, sir.
And I'll make sure to give opportunity for these gentlemen to ask a quick question as well. If you can keep the next two answers short as possible, that way we have a fair amount of time for each candidate.
I'm going to yield to the moderator for that 16 minutes. I'll put that on the table. Maybe you'll consider giving me a little more time, because there's a lot to talk about. But that's up to you, sir. Next question, please.
With respect to your concerns regarding the problems with drug abuse here in southern Colorado, are you proposing that you will initiate legislation that will increase criminalization rates or increase enforcement rates? What is your criminal law position on that?
I will tell you that there's a balance. There's a balance. You have to start with trying to help people that have this addiction. Throwing them all in jail doesn't solve the problem. Okay? You do have to arrest, and then you have to rehabilitate. Okay, so what does that mean? Does that mean that people with minor offenses have a much lesser charge? Does that mean that instead of going to the county jail, then going to court and going to do public service, maybe they have to do mental health rehabilitation, and we put together more robust programs for detoxing, getting mental health rehabilitation, getting a drug rehabilitation, and trying to get these people clean? I think that's a big part of this. And the answer is yes. When I work in that committee, when I go back to the state legislature, we have to work on that. And here's the one problem. It isn't just dealing with the symptom. Okay, the symptom of drug abuse. We have to get to the root of the problem. And we have to try to stop young people, middle-aged people, and older people from using and abusing drugs. And if you're a veteran of the drug use, and you have committed crimes, you have to answer those crimes. But I would say a heavy-handed approach does not solve the problem. We have to get to the crux of the problem. So it's a balance between law enforcement, but you also have to empower your law enforcement, and you have to empower your judicial system. You can't take those tools away from them. You can't neuter them. But we have to promulgate laws and put guidance out there to law enforcement, and we are to some degree, that allows for those people that commit minor offenses not to just have all that vacated and say, you know what, go back to your family, go back to your home, go back to your community and continue to do drugs. It's okay. Don't worry about it. Because it's not okay. You have to try to help them rehabilitate themselves and help them understand. And all of us as a community at large understand the corrosive nature of this and how everyone should want to not use drugs because of the future that they will attain from staying away from that corrosive and divisive chemical. And I can't tell you specifically what legislation we would promulgate. I would work with everybody on the Public Health and Human Services Committee. I would work with across the aisle in a bipartisan way with my Democrats and my friends to say, how can we achieve this? How can we get to this point where we're helping our youth, where we're helping people that are truly drug addicted to get that mental health they need, to get that rehabilitative health they need? And public-private partnerships, people talk a lot about that. Maybe that's a place for some public-private partnerships. Maybe some more funding for our hospitals. Maybe more clinics that we can stand at, both either public or private clinics that help with this. So I don't know if that completely answers your question, but I think you understand where I'm coming from, sir.
Yes, thank you. And specifically, though, would that involve a diversion program like with the drug court programs?
Talk to me a little bit more about that so I can get around to completely understanding your question, sir.
Sure, there are drug court programs in numerous states where those with minor offenses that are known to be repeat offenders due to addiction are diverted into a mental health and substance abuse treatment program.
Well, sir, I will tell you that I'm not familiar with that specifically. It sounds like it may be a good idea to try to help those people in that manner and try to get them to get out of that cycle of dependency and get out of that cycle that makes them fall down and they cannot get themselves back up and become a part of society. But here's the other problem, sir. They have to want to get out of it. You have to give them a motivation for getting out of it. And when can you get back on the street and you can get drugs everywhere and they're peddled like popcorn in a movie theater, there's a problem there. And if we can't get the drugs off the street, if we can't address the drug dealers and the billions and billions of dollars that are made from this drug trade all over the United States and the world, we have to get to that. And the war on drugs continues. It will continue for decades and generations. But I will tell you, there's a lot of things that we're not doing. So the short answer is yes, I think it's a good idea. The long answer is I need to understand it better. And then I need to put my head around and talk with my colleagues on both sides of the aisle about what we can do. And if that's a good direction to go. And if we even have the funds right now to support that in this state. Because we are having a serious economic problem in this state, at the state government level, in our counties, and within small businesses, and even large businesses. Thank you, sir.
Now, Richard, I'm going to give you an option real quick. We can either give you 3 minutes for your closing statement, or you can take one more question. I'm going to let you field that.
I'm going to take one more question, because this gentleman cannot be left out.
Appreciate that.
This is a question from the audience, but I'm going to roll back into it as well. What is your stance on the continued growth of the cannabis industry as it stands right now? And do you want to help cultivate the growth, or do you wish to reduce it? And if you wish to reduce it, what do you thoughts on what to replace that tax dollar?
Well, that was about 4 or 5 questions in one, sir. So I need more time. I'm going to ask you for a little more time. I still only have 3 minutes. Okay, this moderator's tough. I got to respect the moderator's a tough cookie. Well, let's start with this. I'm a free market economist. Markets need to drive what we do. So, what's driving the market? What's driving the cannabis industry? Well, obviously demand. So, as an agricultural producer, cannabis is an agricultural product. Okay, there are very valuable uses for cannabis in the medicinal arena. We know that. I will tell you that if Colorado is going to be the cannabis capital of the United States and we're just going to grow cannabis for recreational use and export all across the United States, I would say that there's a lot of other issues and complications that come from that. But if that is what the market demands, and we are able to produce it, then there's a consideration for allowing those market forces to play out. And that's just an economic reality that we cannot overlook. Now, I can't go into my personal feelings about cannabis use, because what happens in politics is a lot of people take their personal ideas and they want to promulgate policy against something or for something because that's their personal ideology. Well, I will tell you that it's happening in this state. It's been happening for many years, and it's wrong. So for those colleagues that I have in the Capitol, I'll start with the governor and I'll work my way down. Okay, take your ideology out of politics to some degree and serve your people. Serve the people of Colorado, and not yourselves, and what you believe in personally. That's a huge problem, Colorado. It's a huge problem for our governor, and it's a huge problem for everybody in the Boulder city and county area that tries to push all those ideas down into the Capitol and then promulgate those all across the state. Now, I will tell you that despite my personal feelings, but I think you've already figured out, okay, 1 minute left. Got to wrap up 4 questions in one. This is going to be tough. I'm going to try. Okay, we need to let free economic forces move forward. We need to support production and production agriculture. If we have to promulgate policy and regulations within the state, which we already are doing in the hemp industry, for example, and lead the way to be responsible and ethical in what we're doing and have a safety consideration there, then I think we let that work itself out. And I will tell you, I think that answered 3 of the 4 questions, maybe 5. And I probably have 30 seconds left. So I'm going to do my closer real fast, if it's okay with you.
If you can keep it tight.
Okay, it's going to be real tight because I think I have 30 seconds. If you want to know about Richard Holtorf, your state representative, I will tell you, go to my website. If you want to know what I did on in the last session when I hit the ground running like a freight train, like a fullback going to the end zone with a football, go to my website and look at the legislation, because there's 4 bills, and oh, by the way, the new kid that came in to replace Kimmy Lewis got 3 bills signed by the governor or was it 4? Last session. when I had a lot of my Democrat colleagues say, well, Richard, you know, you just need to sit down, look, listen, and learn. There's a whole lot to learn about state governments. Well, I will tell you something, ladies and gentlemen. Being in the state legislature and being in politics is not the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. Probably the hardest thing, much like some of the people that were up here earlier, was serving my country. Serving my country to defend the Constitution of the United States. We're a constitutionally based republic. Okay, we can never forget that. Everything we do needs to be a foundation of the Constitution as it was written, and not to be rewritten in present time by those that think they're smarter than our forefathers, because I will argue that we are not. So, having said that, it gives me great pleasure to be here tonight with Trinidad, Las Animas County. It gives me great pleasure to stand before all of you great Americans and answer your hard questions. It gives me great pleasure to address all of you and serve, because I am serving. I'm a public servant. I think one of the other people here mentioned it. We're public servants and we work for you. You employ me, but you will find nobody that will work harder for House District 64 right now than the person that's speaking, Representative Richard Holtorf. Please consider re-electing me. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next we're going to do some Q&A, and then 3 minutes for closing.
I'm in the enviable position for running unopposed for my last term as district attorney. So my time will be spent first on thanking the voters of Los Animas who in 2017 voted a sales tax initiative that helped fund and give direct revenue to the DA's office. When I got here, there was me as a prosecutor, one county prosecutor in Los Animas County. As I sit here today, I have 5 more additional prosecutors to help prosecute the crime in Los Animas County. We've had 177% increase in crime enforcement since I've been here. We've increased felony prosecutions. But not just that, I brought in diversion programs. I'm the one who brought last year diversion for juveniles from the state funded grant. With the support of the county commissioner, we're going to talk about that a little bit more, we now have an adult diversion program. We've already had a drug court in Los Animas County. Chief Judge Appel and now Chief Judge Dearbrock both had the foresight to bring those programs in. So we're tough on enforcement, but also have restorative justice programs. I want to come back to the county commissioners. We've had some rough times, but Phil Dorenkamp is sitting there. In the last 2 years, I've got to tell you that with the current slate of county commissioners, 2 of whom I believe are running unopposed, we now have a situation where the DA's office and the county commissioners are not at each other. We are together working to solve problems. They're part of using those funds to support the initiatives we have. They have, because I've watched them, taken a very responsible approach to all the money that was received. Not only 1A, back then, 1B and 1C. This is a group of county commissioners that also support not only law enforcement, but the needs of the county. Your county administrator there is one guy that works just as hard as I do. We exchange emails at 11 o'clock at night, sometimes midnight, because all of us are dedicated to improving Los Animas County. And I'm pleased to be your district attorney one more time to continue to do and build on what we've been working on.
Okay, we've got some time for some Q&A. If you would, go ahead and try to keep our answers to 3 minutes. Start on your end.
You said this is your last term. What would you view as your biggest issue you'd like to make a difference in before you leave office?
There are several. The first of which is getting our arms around the drug issue. And I'm not talking about, the users. We have plenty of those we're trying to do with diversion programs or with the drug court, helping them get off of drugs, not be criminalized per se. But we're having a hard time getting to the distributors, the dealers who are bringing it in. When I say we're having a hard time, it's because we haven't had the prosecutor and the resources in the past to do that. I now have not only those prosecutors, but an investigator to help our local law enforcement, our Trinidad Police Department and our Sheriff's Department to follow up on some cases. I've leveraged the ability to work with the federal officers. I used to be U.S. Attorney. I'm on first name basis with current U.S. attorneys. They've helped us adopt cases that they wouldn't take, that bring in some of the offenders that are the high-level offenders and take them federally. I'd like to make a major inroad into the drug distribution arena here in Los Angeles and in Huerfano County. We've done good, we can do much better.
In light of the national issues that we've been dealing with allegations of police brutality, is there any sort of oversight effort that you'll be taking with respect to the law enforcement agencies with whom you work?
And say that again if you could, I just couldn't quite follow it.
Sure. The question is, will you be engaging in any sort of oversight and, I guess, risk remediation with respect to law enforcement?
We unfortunately had, during my first few years, 4 situations, and I think what you're talking about is the issue of excessive use of force. I've had to write 4 excessive use of force reports, which meant a homicide or a death of an individual who was a defendant suspect at the hands of law enforcement. In all 4 situations, the underlying core problem was the individual was on meth and probably one other drug, meth and heroin, or something like that. In the first case, the individual, because the law enforcement had come for what we call a welfare check, they had heard that an outbuilding was burning. It turned out that that individual attacked one of the deputies. He had, I believe, 800 nanograms of methamphetamine in his system. 200 nanograms is the usual high use of a normal person who uses. In the next 3 that happened, it went from 800 nanograms to 1,200 nanograms of methamphetamine to 1,600, well over to 3,200. In both of those instances, the law enforcement officers were attacked by the individual who basically was beyond control. I'm not saying they were intending to attack, it's just that that's another demonstration of why exactly there are some situations that call for use of force. But you've got to believe that I looked at it very strongly, very carefully, very seriously to make sure that law enforcement did what they could in terms of trying to use least restrictive force before it escalated up to that situation. I don't mind oversight of what we do. My reports on each one of them were over 20 pages because I not only talked about the facts, but I talked about the law and identified the issue, which was drugs, drug distribution, and individuals whose use had escalated to a point that they were a danger to themselves and the community. So I'll write long reports, I'll write thorough reports, but if law enforcement does not follow their responsibility, I'll have no hesitation to prosecute. But they try hard here in this county, and they work hard.
Thank you, sir.
Eli?
Eli DeBono, KCRT, Phillips Broadcasting. Mr. Solano, well, I just want to personally thank you for your diligent effort in combating what's going on in Los Angeles County. I guess a prosecutor enforces criminal laws and represents the victims of the crime. But I need to ask you, what is more important to you? What's more pertinent to you? Justice or truth?
Justice or truth?
Yes, sir.
Truth. And truth aligned with proper evaluation will lead to justice. I have dismissed cases when, after thorough investigation, not only by law enforcement, but by investigators and review by our staff, when we believe we can't prove the case beyond a reasonable doubt. So that's exercising. The one thing I recognize is that law enforcement, and in particular the district attorney's office, stands between the constitutional rights of the defendant and law enforcement and public safety. If we don't do our job right, we do a disservice to the defendants, we do a disservice to the public, we do a disservice to our communities and our Constitution. I take that and have taken that for over 40 years as a serious responsibility. If we fail in what we're doing, you start to see some of the issues that are coming up nationally, which is abuses by law enforcement, mistakes by law enforcement, compounded by an environment that is just laden with drugs and crime. I hope to never make a mistake, but I make mistakes, but I always try to correct them. But I also think heavy, long, and hard, and use the senior staff that I have to help make good, right decisions. I collaborate with law enforcement. I bring them in the 4 homicides that I talked about, excessive use of force. Before I issued my final report, I gave each family an opportunity to come in, to review what I had as information, to ask if they wanted any further follow-up. And while they may not have agreed with my belief that there was no crime by the law enforcement, they at least understood the reason for it and the fact that I had to follow and the law I had to follow. So that's a common combining truth that leads to justice.
Thank you very much, sir.
Todd?
Tom Rogowski, World Journal. This question comes from the Facebook Live audience, which asks whether decriminalizing heroin and cocaine at the federal level would be optimum in your opinion.
No. And the reason I say that is, and you can see it now, the issue of low-level drugs, I believe when the state legislature decriminalized from the felony level to a high-level misdemeanor of first-level drug offenses less than 4 ounces. The problem is there's no incentive when we get those, because they're counted misdemeanor cases, to have the individual put into treatment programs. What that has done, because one of the things you need to do for the user, I'm not talking about the criminal, I'm not talking about the distributor. Many times the users engage in other crimes, property thefts, other kinds of things. And if you don't have something like the potential for Department of Correction sentencing, sometimes they won't engage in what we call deferred judgment or diversion that will force them to start to go into treatment. And if you can't get them into treatment because they know that it's serving less time on a misdemeanor than going to a 90-day, to a 60-day, or to a 1-year drug rehabilitation program, they'll obviously do the lesser of the two. I don't believe with heroin and cocaine because they actually very radically affect your judgment and your ability, that decriminalizing them in the absence of treatment programs and other things would do a service to the country, do a service to the county. We don't have enough drug treatment programs that are available for family members and available at no cost. I've talked to a number of families that have spent over $50,000 out of their own pocket trying to deal with low-level drug addiction of their family members. God bless them for doing that, but then we still see that family member cycling back through the system. So that's why if you decriminalize, you're just going to create a system and a revolving door. You have to be thoughtful about prosecution. You have to be thoughtful about what you do by way of plea bargains. But it's got to be to restore them and give them an incentive to correct their use. I'm not here to just send everyone who's a user to the Department of Corrections. But we are the tail end of the system, and without all the other stuff in front of us, I become the system of last resort. Our office becomes the treatment provider through the use of deferred judgment and diversion with the hammer of, if you don't comply, you can be sent to the Department of Corrections. Now, maybe not all prosecutors are that way, but here in the 3rd Judicial District, that's the way we operate.
Thank you, sir.
Eli, did you have any?
No, I'm good, thank you.
Okay.
Andrew?
Henry, if you want to go ahead and give 3-minute closing.
I just again want to thank the county commissioners, the county administrator, Mr. Dornkamp, for the good, strong working relationship we have, but most importantly, to the voters who passed the sales tax and excise tax initiative that I first raised in 2017 that the commissioners helped put on the ballot. Without that, we would be struggling and have maybe only one prosecutor besides myself. I've been able to attract good, talented staff. who have the right view of prosecution, which is to try not only keep the community safe, but help the offenders, do right by families and the offenders in our community. I'm looking forward to a good 4 years, probably my last 4 years as a practicing attorney after 40 some odd years. I can't think of any better place than Los Alamos County, where we have a family ranch that we've been able to get to since 2000. Thanks very much.
Thank you. Okay, now we're gonna give some time for Q&A and 3 minutes for closing again. Felix, we'll go ahead and start with you if you want to give a 3-minute opening, and then Luis, if you go ahead and follow.
Thank you so much, Andrew. I want to say thank you to the Chamber, to all the media that is here tonight. Thank you for staying up with us late at night. So I think that's kind of a thing for a new show, right? I also want to thank Trinidad State for the opportunity to come together, and this community college for me is personal. In 1980, I came to Trinidad State, and as you know, I was an international student. What an opportunity to come to the United States of America, a country that I've learned to call home. It is my home, a country that I love. And being a public servant, both when I was even president of this community college here, what an opportunity to serve my community and look back at the trajectory that this amazing nation opens to all of us when you believe in it, when you work hard. The honor to be a county commissioner is a humbling opportunity. Being a county commissioner is one of those positions that I take very serious. It is not the, I'll be in one of these days. It is usually, you have to stay there continually because of the mandates that are coming down both from the legislature as well as the relationships that we're creating both through all of our counties. It's an important opportunity to make an impact not only to the San Luis County, but for Southern Colorado. I want to share with you a little bit of my resume, and if I don't have time, Andrew, I'll use that in my closing comments as well, of what we have been able to accomplish here in the San Luis County in the last couple of years by the honor that I have had of being voted in as county commissioner. Initially, we had an opportunity to connect with some sources of funding, and we were able to acquire for the San Luis County a medically assisted treatment van that provides behavioral opportunities for individuals that are dealing with opioid and so on. I am now serving at the statewide level on the executive board for county commissioners. It's called Colorado Counties Incorporated, and I serve on the executive board. I was elected about a year ago, and certainly what an opportunity to really bring the voice of the San Luis County to them and vice versa. So we're at the table, San Luis County is there, and with your vote of confidence and re-election, God's willing, I'll be serving in that executive board as your vice president here in the next year, and then the president of Colorado Counties in 2022. So the San Luis County has made so many strides by working and staying committed. One of the amazing opportunities that we have had is that you go to the legislature, and it's so good to see some faces like our Representative Holtorf and senators. When you walk out to the Senate, to the House, and bring the voice of the San Luis County, it's important and imperative that we have a voice. So, thank you.
Go ahead, Luis.
Well, good evening, and thank you for saving the best two for last tonight. Andrew, good to see you again here, TSJC. It's come a full circle for me in a short time of years, 48 years. I'm 48 years old, and I remember performing on this stage as a high school student and as a college student here attending TSJC. And it's very humbling to be able to be here speaking to you as a capacity as an incumbent four-year county commissioner. As Felix alluded to, this is very humbling and very exciting for people of our community to entrust myself and my fellow commissioners as elected officials to be the person that they've chosen to choose to assist them in their futures and their decision making moving forward. Having said that, they've chosen me to do a lot. I currently sit on 8 board of directors, And that's not a joke, it's 8 boards. And as the commissioners, you are put on many different boards of executive committees. The Board of County Commissioners for one, the Board of Human Services, the Board of Equalization. I sit on the OPI board. Will be chairman next year of the OPI board, this is Otero Partners Incorporated. I'm also on the Council of the Governments board, and I'll be chairman of the board next year as well for that. I sit on the Trinidad Urban Renewal Committee Authority. Also, I'm on the Southern Colorado Economic Development as an alternate, and I'm also on the State Transportation Authority Committee. So they spread us pretty thin, and it's a full schedule slate for us. But being in this capacity to serve, it is a wonderful position, and in the position we've been placed in 4 years ago, as Mr. Solano alluded to, the counties were in really bad shape financially. We were hitting a funding mechanism that was not properly hitting on all cylinders for the needs that we needed to do so for our county to give the services that were required for our citizens. At that time, our county courthouse was closed 2 days a week. The funding wasn't there. We're sitting still at 9.357 or 9.375 mill levy. Mr. Dornkamp could correct me on that. But we inherited that financial drain, and with that current Board of Commissioners at that time, we were able to pass not only 1A, 1B, and 1C collectively as a county, we were able to help get our county out of a financial funding shortage. We've also implemented many things that we discussed back when I ran the first time, including the cross-training of our staff throughout the county, which really hasn't been done with Mr. Dornkamp's oversight. We've done many of those services as well. And one of the proudest things I am proud of was all the things that we've accomplished, including the hospital improvements, the public safety measures, the 1B, 1C, and our DHS oversight, which 4 years ago was a $250,000 deficit on an annual or sub-annual basis, to 230 the following year, 60 the next, and with the oversight we implemented with the help of our finance committee, our finance people, Mrs. Christy Cobley, Ms. Kim Chavez, Mr. Dornkamp, we are proud to say there's a $70,000 surplus for DHS. So I'm very proud to be here tonight and alert you to all of those successes we've had.
Great. Okay, now we're going to be doing Q&A. If you guys can, just keep your answers, try and limit them down to about 3 minutes. That way we can get through as many as we can. Okay? Go ahead, Eli.
We're going to do a double take. Mr. Lopez. Elected from the KCRT, Phillips Broadcasting. Felix, what are some of your long-range, I guess, objectives that you would like to see implemented and materialized as commissioner in Los Animas County, sir?
One of the, thank you so much. One of the opportunities that we have had in the past is having contacts up and down the Front Range. I've had an opportunity to introduce the CEO of the local gas company, Evergreen Natural Resources, to the Colorado Springs utility superintendent's foreman. They're looking actually to procure clean energy. And Los Animas County, with the natural gas, basically is producing that clean gas. So creating that opportunity, I also have a really good friend that works out of the Naval Academy out in San Diego. He is one of the individuals that knows about the Raton Basin and all the geothermal energy that exists here within the Raton Basin of Los Animas County. I invited him to come to Los Animas County and visit with them to see if there is an opportunity to extract geothermal energy and at least connect them to Los Animas County. So in the long term, I would like to see more employment, blue-collar jobs here in Los Animas County. We have a community college. When we were the team that we had at Trinidad State, basically we created programs to train for the oil and gas industry. We couldn't train them fast enough. I personally traveled to Greenville, North Carolina, and I visited with a community college in there that already had the training programming for the oil and gas industry. We spoke to that administrative team, we brought it to Los Animas County, and when the oil and gas came in full force to Trinidad, we had the very training program. And I would imagine Trinidad State still in the same situation to do the same. So hopefully in the next 4 years, Eli, I would like to see expansion of employment. Obviously at this point in time, there is even dialogue and conversation that the coal mine is looking at perhaps doing operations in Los Animas County to be sustainable here in Los Animas County, to have the minimum wage to support our economy and actually to become a model for the state of Colorado.
Thank you, sir.
Luis, would you like to
Can you
comment?
repeat the question, please?
Luis, what are some of your long-term range objectives, I guess you could say, that would you like to see initiated, implemented, materializing as a commissioner in Los Angeles County, sir?
Thank you for repeating that. Funding mechanisms is probably the biggest point we have as a policymaker, as a commissioner. Well, the biggest battle we face every day is finding the mechanisms for funding the services we provide. But in that funding mechanism, we can also reach out to our private sector and offer assistance with them in being successful, as Felix alluded to, with our energy organizations, our coal mine, which is hopefully getting ready to be up and running. We do have an opportunity to help ourselves right now with the referendum 1A that is on the table for the county ballot measure. The committee for a CARES, Los Angeles County CARES, has put together, and I believe they spoke about that this afternoon or earlier this evening regarding that ballot measure. So that is a great tool that will position Los Angeles County to probably fund itself, where we'll be less reliant on state funding with the future budget cuts coming from the state of Colorado for our Department of Human Services, our PILT monies, or I'm sorry, not PILT money, but our Department of Local Affairs revenues, and possibly our HUF money. So there's a lot out there with funding mechanisms so we can provide the services and govern you accordingly to the service that you need and require for our community, and give them the best service possible. But the funding is necessary to do so.
Thank you, Lopez. And Lopez sounds like an attorney from.
Yes.
Yes, this question's for both gentlemen. I mean, with respect to the 1A money we're talking about, how much of that and how will that money go into infrastructure improvements that may relate to these economic policies we've talked about?
Luis, go ahead. Sorry.
A lot of the problems it's causing county governments to be hamstrung, so especially Los Angeles County, is proper maintenance and care of their facilities that they own. In state government, such as this facility here, you have funding to maintain this place. It's a beautiful facility. In county government, you have to pick and choose where you're going to lay people off, or you're going to put some maintenance into your property. As of 2 years ago, we had to start the process of renovating the Los Angeles County courthouse before it fell down. We were lucky enough to get a lot of money in grants as well as county match to do so. We stabilized it what I'm getting is without having our facilities available to conduct business on your behalf, we can't collect the fundings to distribute to the school districts, to the fire districts and so forth, where the courthouses, you conduct your business. So infrastructure is very important to make sure we maintain our facilities for you to conduct business moving forward.
One of the imperative points that I want to highlight is Los Angeles County is the largest county geographically in the state of Colorado. So we have a lot of need. Funding, of course, is going to be one of those things, and I enjoy visiting with our finance director and going over opportunities. Obviously, those funds from the referendum are going to be put back in our community, and certainly the money that we're going to be able to inject back on those projects that have been put aside for so many years is not going to be enough, but certainly it's going to be a good start. And one of the things that we're also hoping to do is leverage those funds. Should we get an opportunity to actually apply for a grant, whether it's state or federal, $500,000, we can use some of those funds to actually inject dollar per dollar match, if you will. So really, really important opportunity that we have in front of us to actually give back. That's why the slogan says, Los Animas County cares, Los Animas County shares. Thank you.
Kurt?
Yeah, Eli asked earlier, and actually mentioned earlier, opportunities that you have, in the positions you have. What do you think is your biggest hurdle that you have to get over as a commissioner? Issue-wise.
I think when you look at the current economy of the state of Colorado right now, obviously is getting over COVID. That's one of the things that, and not only Los Angeles County, but certainly we need to begin to think and put a plan to open up our counties and doing it in a very safely responsible manner. to where we begin to attract businesses. I think one of the hurdles is how do we entice and attract business and manufacturing to look at Los Angeles County. I attended a meeting in Lamar and where the Office of Economic Development and International Trade actually asked a question, and there was a packed house in there, so I raised my hand and I said, well, what about those companies that don't want to really relocate from California to Denver, but we have Trinidad, we have Lamar, we have all these small communities. How do we begin to connect us? So one of the hurdles is communication, and I tell you, I'm really honored by my fellow county commissioners. They chose me to be the liaison between the legislature, if you will, and Trinidad, so I'm up and down I-25 as often as we can. So it's creating opportunity, creating partnerships, public, private, and whatever the case may be. But that not to say that in many cases, it takes all three of us to go to Denver and to actually sit together and testify on a bill, speak on behalf of Los Angeles County. So all of it is the recognition where we are. We have tremendous assets here in Los Angeles County. We have a college that actually is accessible to northern New Mexico, south and west of Los Angeles County. So the visibility, I would think, is one of the hurdles that we need to find a way to better sell Los Angeles County.
And to add to, am I on? Hello? Can you hear me? To add to that, I'd like to just mention that we are working here very diligently with Council of Governments, which I'm on that board of directors as well, to implement broadband in our community. With our new state park and with the study that is being done on Highway 12, if you're not familiar with it, we have been working with Council of Governments, and we've put together a PEL study to do a bike trail from Trinidad all the way up and over to Cuchara, down to La Vida, and back out into Walsenburg to attract those types of folks that want to move here, enjoy our outdoor activities, our new Fisher's Peak State Park, but without the broadband that is available for those folks that say they want to move here from back east or up north or in California or somewhere else where they can work from home, but also assist us in our community with their services that they could bring here from utilizing our services that are going to be available. So that's a big issue for the majority of the folks that want to come here. I mentioned the hospital earlier, which is going to be a great asset to us with a huge hurdle, with that broadband that could only make it better. This hospital is to be one of the most high-tech hospitals in the state, where you can do home health from your healthcare from your home. With that broadband out in Key and Branson, Aguilar, Segundo, Primero areas, that would even assist it even more. We just have the infrastructure issues that we need to get past those hurdles, but we are primed and set to move forward into the 21st century for this community. We really need to get our infrastructure going so we can attract more. Cougar Canyon is one of the big hurdles that we've looked at, and we've been assisting with the city of Trinidad in any way possible we can with our treasurer's office. Housing is a huge issue right now for us, one of our biggest hurdles. We have a coal mine that is wanting to open up here in Los Angeles County. With all the green energy that's out there, people need to realize you still need coking coals to make the steel to build the wind towers. So it is still a viable product between the two. So there's so much happening right now in the community, but housing is a big one. Sitting on the urban renewal board, that is one of our biggest issues that we have inside the city limits of Trinidad, which inside of the blight is what we're trying to clean up. That would be a great place for some Habitat for Humanity homes. We met with Sally Clark just the other day with the U.S. Department of Agriculture regarding looking at some and assisting some of our contractors in the community of picking up some of those sites once they are cleared through TURA. So there's many moving parts right now and many hurdles we have. So which one do you want to pinpoint? All of them. Let's get them all.
Luisa, you made mention, Eli DeBona, by the way, KCRT, Phillips Broadcasting. Luisa, you mentioned about infrastructure. Let me ask either one of you, Felix or Luisa, if someone approached you with a proposal maybe to build a new piece of infrastructure in the county, whether it's a road or a bridge, how would you evaluate whether that project was worth implementing?
That's a great question, and the process goes, it's very difficult for a commissioner to take on that questioning, a line question from that project. we are set by a standard of quasi-judicial laws, and we also sit as the Board of County Commissioners who will make the final decision after presentation to the Planning and Zoning Commission. So would we have, after the Planning and Zoning Commission has approved or made recommendations for approval, I don't think I've seen one in 4 years been denied. Board of County Commissioners is not one board to basically go out and search for those types of projects, because there is a proper procedure. So it puts a county commissioner in a very slippery slope and a dangerous position if we go and solicit on our own or as a board. But we can help guide that organization or that company group to the proper channels so we can move forward. But we support infrastructure, I do 100%.
Thank you. Thank you, Luis. Felix?
Again, the process, one of the opportunities as an elected official is to be a public servant to the community and to follow Colorado revised statute and law. And the least amount of thinking and process as a county commissioner, the more responsible the project is going to be. There's a public hearing in which you have proponents and opponents that will have an opportunity to give the pro-con. And it is a tough position to be in, because you have to make a decision, you have to vote. But at the end of the day, you're voting on behalf of your constituents, you're hearing the pro-con statements, and it's a humbling opportunity to actually go back and read statute. By the way, there is a county commission orientation that for me it's a pretty thick manual, and I take that very seriously. I carry that with me all the time. What do you do when it comes to research it, and the network that we have throughout the state of Colorado. I can make a phone call to Well County, I can make a phone call to Gunnison County, I can make a phone call to whatever county. We're pretty much on a network that you can actually research, but locally, it's given that process the integrity that it deserves for it to be a good project.
Thank you, Felix.
With respect to planning for the Fishers Peak State Park, what sort of activity should we expect from the county level governments to kind of grease the wheels for financial improvement from that?
Sure.
Funny you should ask. Felix.
We have had an opportunity from the beginning to appear before the Senate, and before COVID, we had an opportunity to actually get the full funding to open up responsibly, to create infrastructure, to get all the voices of our community heard up in Denver. So the three of us went to actually have the honor to appear in front of the Senate, and then we were invited also to go testify on behalf of the 42nd State Park, Fishers Peak, to the State House. And any and all, because it's within our county, it is going to be attracting. When we talk about leveraging resources, that's one of those resources that we have here that we can leverage to attract, as Commissioner Luis Lopez mentioned, the scenic highway of legends. We have the Bell study, we have the Department of Transportation, so communication going on all the way around, which is with the Council of Governments, whether it's CDOT to improve the exits off and on for the 42nd State Park. We are on the first, we're at the table with them as partners. And obviously, right now, we're doing a feasibility study in which the city, county, the Trust for Public Land, and who is the other? There's 4 partners. Actually, we're going through the process, and all of us are contributing to this. So Los Angeles County is actually coming up with $50,000 to create a feasibility study on behalf of all our constituents to see what is this park, what are some of those added value results that we can bring to our county. So exciting, but yet we're right there at the table, sir.
Thank you, sir.
As Felix had mentioned, to grease the wheels, not only did we become a partner with a $50,000, we were prepared to put more money than that if necessary, if the partners weren't available to do so for that matching grant. Fortunately, the Trust for Public Lands and Nature Conservancy and the City of Trinidad were able to come up with $50,000 apiece, so it is a true partnership. But I want to back up for greasing the wheels to Fishers Peak to a number of years ago before this project even started. The City of Trinidad and the Trust for Public Lands and Nature Conservancy had a discussion regarding looking into that, and I believe it was brought forward by a local private group here in Trinidad. They made all the proper steps they had to get the ball rolling with it, but without the trust and the backing of the county commissioners at the time, myself, Matt Loudon, and Dean Moulter, Fisher's Peak probably wouldn't be at the phase it's in right now. It could have caused, it could have had some hurdles to overcome. The Board of County Commissioners, whether this current board or the board that passed, have been 100% behind Fisher's Peak. It's becoming a park, period. At the time, it was just going to be owned by the Nature Conservancy, Trust for Urban City of Trinidad type partnership until they move forward. With Governor Pola stepping up to make it into a state park was probably the best thing that's happened for Los Angeles County moving forward. But to grease the wheels on top of it, our fellow other commissioner, Mr. Hass, has been giving tours to Crystal Drilling, the director of the state park. He managed that ranch for many, many years, so he knows it inside and out. So he has been at the table as well, giving his insight as often as needed to go up there. We were also up there in help protecting Fisher's Peak Park with our East Peak fire. Recently we had the commissioners and I and Mr. Dorenkamp were up there with our firefighters. They're assisting in any way we could, support-wise, and assisting in executing of the fire drops. So we understand the nature of that industry, how important it is to protect that property for our future. We also understand with Mr. Hass's ability to manage that ranch, how important it is to keep that ecosystem intact. So the pristine place that we know as Fisher's Peak will stay, that's the same way. Without being properly managed, we could see it really turn into a disarray, which we do not want to do. And I think the state of Colorado has plenty of things on it. But for greasing the wheels and moving forward, I think we're in a really great spot right now.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Staying on Fisher's Peak for another second, you talked about infrastructure, you talked about studies that you're doing. When Fisher's Peak is ready, in your opinion, will we be ready?
You know, I think we have this small challenge that we're getting over. As you remember, the governor wanted to have a soft opening sometime this fall. That's about the only information we have at this point in time. But I can tell you one thing. Hopefully, I'm still hopeful that it's going to happen. Something's going to happen before the end of the year, because Los Angeles County, the city of Trinidad, the citizens, the constituents, they've been waiting for this for a long time. And as soon as there's a green flag, I think we're all going to try to go out there. What a beautiful piece of property that is. But my answer is short, concise, but that's all I know.
And yes, will we be ready? Hopefully. But Los Angeles County is assisting in getting ready as we speak. The State Transportation Authority Committee that we made and the regional planning for transportation is trying to find the funding, how we're going to get those exits properly done. But in the meantime, until then, it looks like the first opening entryway is going to be along the I-25 frontage road, driving past the Tequila's restaurant. Our Road and Bridge Department superintendent / administrator, and I'd like to give Mr. Dorenkamp a plug at this time. He plays both roles for your tax dollars at one salary, so he does a great job for this community. But he was able to, we were able to donate some huge boulders, or what we call riprap, in order to help mitigate some of the sections of the park over there for their parking lots to keep the erosion down, where they did the bathhouses recently. So we are a player, we are at the table, we are assisting in any way we can for Fisher's Peak. Will we be ready? Our residents, our businesses, if COVID slowly dissipates and hopefully we find some way to conquer what we're facing right now as a world, as a community, and as a state, I think we're going to be more than ready.
Some concerns have been raised by businesses that the New Mexico side will be ready sooner than the Colorado side due to the nature of their state park there. Is there a risk that they'll be able to capitalize on the state park before we can?
The way the demographic, the the land is set up. You have the state park in New Mexico, the Sugar Reef State Park that is there. There is no roads or infrastructure past that. It is all walking until they get into the James John area. So will they be able to utilize it? They utilize it now. Would that be a benefit for the New Mexico? I think it's going to be a benefit for both sides. We also have to remember we have that County Road 85.5. It doesn't connect to the park, but it is an attraction for both residents of New Mexico and Colorado, and they both utilize that at one time. I think being sister cities, I don't think it's a competition of who's going to get more of the business. I think we're all going to benefit from it.
Gentlemen, Facebook question just came in. Apparently it says, why are you both against off-road industry with the industry it will bring? Can it be done in an environmentally conscious way?
What was the industry? I'm sorry.
Why are you against off-road industry with the industry it will bring? Can it be done in an environmentally conscious way? That's the way it's worded.
Off-road industry, I guess
I can, it's not that we've even been approached of the off-road industry. I think the question might be regarding to the 85.5 County Road might be because it's closed partially of the year and under the state statutes we can do so. It is a pretty rough road, but as far as any transportation concerns for off-road vehicles, those are fall under state statute. I don't believe it is a county statute that will deter from off-road vehicles being on our county roads. Other than your private property, and I know Mr. Hoffman is a very big outdoor off-road enthusiast. I don't think it's anything the county in particular opposes. It would be under state statute. So,
thank you. And I have a question for you. You know, the commissioners work with the county health department. So, does the county have a backup plan? I know nobody wants to talk about this, but it's a reality. In the event that the spread of the COVID gets even more extreme during the next few months?
First of all, I think, one of the clarifications I want to make that yes, the county commissioners work with the local public health department, but they are a standalone entity. They have their own board. And one of the, if you listen to the updates that Director King Gonzalez actually provides on a weekly basis, in the event, one of my questions has been from day one, and I attend as many as I can on a weekly basis, is how many beds do we have available, not only for the Southern District, but within the state of Colorado. And a few weeks ago, the response was that we were using about 17% of the designated beds for the pandemic statewide. So I would imagine that are we going to be ready? It's going to be a question of partnering and reaching out for resources outside of Los Angeles County. As you know, the local hospital right now, I don't quite say they have 7 beds, and I'm just going to use a number dedicated for the intensive care. Well, if we had an accident in 925 that would include multiple vehicles, automatically we would saturate the market here in Los Angeles County, here at the local hospital. The plan, I would imagine that it's a question that we hope and pray that it's not going to spike up, but I would believe that it would be reaching out. There is a facility that my understanding is being prepared and getting ready in Pueblo. One of those big what ifs, and I wish I had more information on that, but at this point in time, that's what I know.
Would it be a remote possibility that the utilization of the Los Angeles County Fairgrounds would be a possibility?
Well, we have to look at the situation that we're faced at right now. And yes, to that question, that would go under emergency management. So we have a lot of moving parts when it comes to emergency management and emergency declaration. So this educates you a little bit of background on this. When the Declaration of Emergency was passed down from the White House down to our states, our state government implemented it, and the county implemented it as well. A lot of it is it follows under what's called an annual operation plan under emergency management. At that time and place, the health district, which falls under both county board of commissioners from Huerfano County and Los Angeles County, will now take the control as incident commander regarding this type of situation, this being a pandemic. If it was a fire, it would be from the fire marshal, and so forth for declarations of emergencies. So we have to realize or understand that the mechanisms that are set in place under statute, way before this occurred, was set back during September 11th attacks, 9/11, many years ago, in case we have this type of outbreaks again or disasters. So the mechanisms have been set in place under statute, under the executive emergency declarations. So moving forward, the question that you asked, would the fairground facilities be available? As a commissioner, I would not say no, but that question would need to go to the incident commander and the emergency management team at that time. And that would also go through the Department of Homeland Security, Ms. Christy Coberly, and the epi doctors and everybody else that need to understand the thing. So what we're looking forward to right now, Eli, is since we've had some more outbreaks in Huerfano County, they did a mass testing recently. I think they tested 830 some people with, I think, 2 or 3 that came back as a positive. Los Angeles County is in the same situation to prevent any type of ratchet down right now. So what we're going to do, or the health department's going to do, is going to do a mass testing as well. So how the ratchet down worked 4 months ago, we had a variant set in place by the governor and the CDPHE. If we reached a capacity that the hospital couldn't do or maintain, then our variants would be removed. Well, right now, we've learned a lot from COVID. The CDPHE, the state of Colorado, they're implementing the dial system. If any of you listen on the phone calls we get, the dial system is going to be some sort of a different type of ratchet down. But with the mass testing, it will implement larger numbers of folks being tested, so our percentage will be smaller of those infected. So God willing, we don't have to ratchet down at all. And that's the implementation of those purposes, of those mass testing. We were not too sure how that was going to work and what the purpose was, but it basically makes better sense. The more you test, the percentages drop for infected versus right now, which we had 29 positives, and I think there's only 2 that are in recovery at this point. So the larger the testing, the better availability, but the facilities that would be needed to utilize would fall under Charlie Glorioso in the city of Trinidad and Kim Chavez through emergency management with the incident commander, Kim Gonzalez Health Department.
Thank you, Luis.
Felix, anything you'd like to say?
No, I think that pretty much sums it up.
I think we have time for one more question, either Kirk or Todd. No? Okay. Well, why don't you guys take some time and give about 3 minutes for a closing statement?
3 minutes. Once again, I want to say thank you so much to all of you for this great opportunity to ask you for your vote. I'm running again for District 1, Los Angeles County Commissioner, and I believe that I have made an impact to my constituents. One of the questions that was asked to me the last time that I was running is, will you be answering phone calls? I will, and I do. I answer every phone call I get, regardless. And one of the humbling opportunities that I have in front of me is to be able to listen. And if it's something that I'm going to disagree on, at least I'm well informed. So tonight I want to say thank you. I want to say thank you to my wife because she has been my strong, my right arm. I lean on her. She's the person I go home to. And she knows when I have a tough day. But you know what? That tough day is an opportunity that we did a good job. And so I'm asking for your vote. And I can promise you that I'm going to continue to work hard. Public servanthood is one of those things that we're accountable to the public. And do we get it right all the time? No, we don't. But I can tell you one thing. I stay up late every time we have a county commissioners meeting. I research every one of those issues. Today was a very lengthy meeting. I spent my weekend researching, studying. And one of the things that this position is a little bit humbling because I cannot call my county commissioner, hey, what do you think about right here? We are not allowed to do that. So you go out alone, informed. And when you make a decision, you know that you have the best interest at heart for the constituents. And I can tell you one thing, I researched probably more than I should in some of the issues. So tonight, in closing, let me share with you a couple of other beautiful opportunities that as a county commissioner I was able to do. Serving on the Colorado Counties Incorporated, I was invited to visit the White House. Through the executive board of CCI, we went there in March, and El Paso County commissioners asked as many commissioners as could to go support the United States Space Force to be located in Colorado, because Florida was going to be lobbying for that as well. It was an honor to be there from Los Animas County at no cost, not one red cent for Los Animas County constituents. What an honor to walk into the building, to say I'm from Trinidad, Colorado, and I'm speaking here on behalf of the state of Colorado. And so, real humbling opportunity, both Felix Lopez, and any questions, I'm always there, and if I'm not there, I'll call you back. Thank you.
And well, thank you TSJC and all of our media outlets for being here. Mr. Hoffman, thank you for being a nice snazzy suit of yours. I don't get to see you like that very often. I'd like to say thank you as well to my family. I have 2 young children who are now 15 and 13, but they've had to go the last 4 years, and my wife, of losing their dad for a lot of meetings and being gone a lot. So I'd like to thank them for putting up with me being gone and not being as strong as possibly as I could be as a dad at those times. But we had a lot to overcome here as a county, and we had a lot of work to do. We still have a lot of work to do, and moving forward, I think we're going to be in great shape. So as well, thank you to my wife and my children, my mother, my brother as well. They've been very strong supporters for myself as in my position as a county commissioner and as advisory council to me at times as well. I have been honored to be here running unopposed. It is quite an honor, and if Commissioner Felix Lopez feels the same way in our selective parties. When we were sworn in, or when Commissioner Felix Lopez and Tony Haas were sworn in a couple of years ago, I was there with them in their glory and their honor and respecting them. And I mentioned this to them. I said, once we swear you in, you're no longer a D or an R. We're commissioners. We work for everybody. And recently, the Republican Party invited me to their recent dinner that they've had, knowing the same situation that I spoke 4 years ago, 2 years ago, they understand that as well, that we represent everybody. We don't represent just one political party or the other. We represent you. We work for you. You're the taxpayer. You're our boss. Please call. Please have concerns. Make the email. Make the phone calls. Come to the meetings. We're here for you. I have been the honor of my Board of County Commissioners asking me to be the chairman for the last 2 years. I thank them very much. Very fortunate to have a strong supporting board and our strong supporting staff. I'd like to mention our staff at Los Animas County. They've had to endure many, many years of inadequate pay. Our Sheriff's Department had a revolving door along with our Department of Human Services. Their pay was, a lot of those folks that were on that salary or hourly pay were also on entitlement programs with our Department of Human Services. Pretty sad. We are moving on our issues, moving forward with our employee issues on their salaries of stabilizing that revolving door, which we've done. This Board of County Commissioners at this time, along with our mechanisms of funding and oversight, which we've saved money available to help implement and protect our county staff. They all need a big hand and a round of applause for the hard work that they do for the residents of Los Animas County, and I want to personally thank every single Los Animas County employee. In closing, my last moments of time up here, I want to thank each and every one of you for being here, for being part of our community, for participating, for being active, for being vocal. We represent you. Please bring your concerns to us and vote for myself, Luis Lopez, and also for Felix Lopez, because 2 Lopez's are better than 1.